Good day, everybody. Tracy Brown here. I hope you're having, no matter what time of day it is, what day this is, I hope you're having a good one. I hope you're encouraged. And if you're not, hopefully we can do some of that today. So, since it's a Q&A day and I have gotten questions from people over the week, we're going to address that right off the bat. So, all right. I've had some questions this week around, health concerns and how do we do intuitive eating? Honestly, this is a pretty fairly complicated topic because what we do with actually health behaviors, it's like everything's on a spectrum. So we're used to the traditional medical model, which is like, okay, you have a condition, you have a thing, and here's your protocol, and you do it. And if you don't do it, then you're not doing something right, or you don't care enough, and all that kind of stuff. And I know that it's not always that cut and dry, like what your recommendations are or what you should do, but it can feel that way because there's a level of like, here's the experts, here's the doctors, here's the dietitians, here's all the stuff I read on the internet, and this is what I should be doing. And if I don't do it right, if my numbers still aren't right, and I'm trying to do intuitive eating with it, I'm doing something wrong. That's not actually the case because we tend to kind of think about health. Even when we're trying to do recovery and intuitive eating, we tend to try to do it the way the old model was, which is like be super compliant and control as much as you feel like you can control. And then if it's not working for you or your labs aren't right or you don't feel better, then you're doing something wrong. And I think we've got to get out of that paradigm as well. Not only the diet culture paradigm, but also the just this perfectionistic way of doing things. Now, when I work with clients, so, I'm not treating anybody, medically here who's watching this. I'm just giving you some examples of how I do things in my practice. And I do have a really specific reader question that I'm going to answer. So if you're watching now, hang tight. I'm going to get to it. So the truth is, though, if you come to me, let's say, and you're struggling with some insulin resistance or PCOS or some chronic fatigue, or I'm just making a long laundry list, migraines or IBS or general some gut health stuff or some hormone stuff, whatever, it's really, really important to look at that. A lot of the protocols you're going to see in terms of like managing this with food as medicine are going to be really rigid. And even a person who has not gone through or is in the process of recovering from an eating disorder or has been in diet culture and is really easily, and our survival systems are really easily triggered by like feeling like we can't have something or feeling boxed in or feeling deprived or the opposite, getting really, easily getting really rigid because that's the home note of survival. A lot of these things aren't gonna be very sustainable. And even people who haven't gone through any of that stuff, there's a level of like you're kind of putting, there's a really fine line that pretty much everybody walks as to how much focus you're going to be putting into your food and your nutrition, your everything, because it very easily can turn into turning all this stuff into an idol and a savior and a rescuer, versus like healing is like it can be a long-term thing that you can't like try to do something really perfect and expect like, oh, I'm magically better. I did all the food protocols and I feel some better, and I did all the supplements and I spent $150 a month on supplements and I'm feeling better. But if you are sacrificing totally your ability to be around people and to be grounded and to be flexible, well, you are disturbing other systems in your body. That's just how it is. And, again, I'm not here to tell people how they should or shouldn't try to manage their health. That's not at all. Some of you can, like, listen to this and be like, yeah, that's not really me. I can, like, follow a no whatever protocol for 12 weeks. Don't feel triggered. I feel a little better or a lot better and I'm fine. If you can do that, that's really awesome. Not a problem. But if I'm really going to gear this video towards people who are like I can't really follow these food protocols because it's too triggering. Then what I do with people is that we've got to pick and choose what we can do without feeling so overwhelmed and triggered, and go with that. And then keep working on making peace with food. Keep working on making peace with food. That way, if we can and if we need to look at, now I work with people and we do some food elimination because sometimes, it's obvious that something's a problem and we need to look at it. And it doesn't mean food's going to be a problem forever. It just means we need to work with it, titrate it, work on the relationship with it. Or it's like, I need to let it go for a while, knowing that it may or may not be permanent. I don't know. So I hope that's clear where where I stand, is that I'm not an all or nothing person around this, but I do know that you have to look at where you're at in your journey and have that be a match with what you're trying to do to manage your health. That's just the bottom line. Now I get it. Some of you, no matter if you do all these things, nutrition things, supplement things, lifestyle things, some of us are going to need medication possibly for a little while, maybe forever, I don't know. Or some of the things we can do lifestyle-wise can help heal. But remember, it can take a while for even, let's say you're in a lot of wired but tired, you're exhausted, but you can't stop. I mean, some of these things aren't going to be nutrition related. Some of it's going to be overhauling your life and how you manage stress. So I'll give you a real example. I'll have people who, maybe are struggling with, A1Cs, and they're trying to either on medication or a low dose, or to manage some insulin resistance, let's say. And they're trying to do all the things that they know how to do, maybe equal mixes, protein, carbs, fat at their meals. They're not trying to go off the deep end and do no carbs because that's not sustainable for them. But, maybe they're taking some things that help with insulin resistance, some supplements. Okay, I'm not going to go into all those supplements, even though I could say it, because I'm just really careful about influencing people to go and overly treat themselves, but not really sure what's working or not. So that kind of goes into the realm of medical nutrition therapy, and I'm not going to do that live here on a video. But what I'll say is there's some things we can do. What I'll say about that is I have clients that are doing some supplements, doing some lifestyle things, trying to journal or whatever. But the bottom line is, if let's say you're doing all these things and things are okay, but you get sick, you get a virus, that's going to raise your blood sugar a little bit. That's the nature of that. That's how it is. Or if you're under some really deadlines or stressful things, or you're in some kind of transition, you're just naturally going to have a little bit more, not necessarily saying it's all bad, but some more stress. That's probably going to impact your blood sugar levels and how stringent you are, or how perfect you are with your intake. That doesn't exist, of course, but let's say you have an idea of how perfect should look and you're trying to do that. No matter what you're doing, there might be a level I might be in a season where these 3 months, or these 6 months, my blood sugar is a little higher. That doesn't mean you don't care about it. Doesn't mean you don't try, but you want to do your best, honestly, in the circumstance you're in. So I'm not trying to be laissez-faire about it. There's just a level of again, it's a juggling act of I'm in this really stressful period. What can I give myself to bring my system more safety? So you might be doing more somatic work. You might be trying to get more sleep, because there's not much more you can do with your food and not feel like you're tipping over this edge of obsession, let's say. Or maybe there's some meals where you can tweak it a little bit more, but there's only so far you can go. And, maybe you can look at your supplements and maybe that needs to be tweaked a little bit. But again, there's this thing of sometimes we're in situations we are riding the wave of where we're at, and knowing that and hopefully, if you're in a really stressful period, hopefully there's an end date. Or if it's maybe challenging, that there will be, that we need to figure out how we're going to make an end date. That may be your biggest work, not really overly putting too much emphasis or pressure on the food, but we'll work on these other life things that would give you some more peace and some more freedom, which would naturally probably help your body feel under less threat, if that makes sense. So hopefully that was clear if you're someone struggling with that yourself. So last thing I'll say around the health thing is that we all know that the more we stress about food and body, the more likely it is we're going to be in these biochemical stress responses in our bodies. So it's really important that you're doing this inner work around making peace with food. Okay, cool. So I'm going to be answering questions as it goes along. So Jill says, a lot of stress and there's an end date. Awesome. So maybe that's the focus. Every time we get into this like maybe heightened stress response, again, not that a stress response is bad because that keeps our bodies seeking safety, which is good. But there's a level of reminding yourself that like you've got this, you've got yourself. There's an end date. That might in itself help you with just to take some more breaths, to get some fresh air, to reach out and vent a little. Because if you're at your edge of like, well, what can I actually do more with my food or medication or supplements? It could be that you're doing everything you could do. And that's why I can't answer these questions directly on these videos unless you give me lots of specific information and you want everybody to know about that, is that, or you don't mind, is that I can't really give too much really specific advice because I don't know what else you're doing. But, generally speaking, if you've reached out for some, maybe more medical support about like what's available to you that's got some, trying to think, sorry, my blank went blank, that got some evidence base that is helpful. If you're already doing all these things, then it's like, overly stressing about trying to get these numbers in a certain range in this state that I'm in right now. Not saying it's not possible or doable, but it may be the best thing to like, okay, can I just recognize that maybe my numbers are a smidge higher than I'd like them to be this month, this set of 3 months, but there's an end date and I'm going to be okay. Or you might find that, there's some things that like I could be doing that I'm not, but I think I could do, and it's not going to be overly stressful to do them. Then that's a go. That's probably a good reason to do things. So does anybody, as we're watching, I know I've got some live viewers here and I so appreciate you. Is there anything that you all have questions about in terms of health that I can really generally answer, because I don't know everybody's specific situations, and especially if I'm not working with you. But are there any questions that anybody has around like any specifics I can answer? I'll do the best I can with that, in this format. So I'm here to answer those questions. A lot of people, as you maybe are percolating some questions you have, and see if I can answer. If not, you might need to private message me. But I think in general around certain things, like especially, when we got started with intuitive eating, and we're still having a mix of like, if you're a person watching this, like I got this weird mix of like, a lot of the dieting was kind of a container for a lot of my emotion. When I let that go, I ate a lot more freely. And in fact, I probably kind of overshot a little bit, which is really normal. But a lot of people are like, but that's really impacting my health now. I totally get it. And the solution probably isn't to go back on a diet, obviously, right? Because we know where that leads. That might be a space where you need some more support around the containment of like, how do I help myself contain this? And I want my health deteriorate, but I also know I can't go on a diet. And the situation is that we do need some containment probably around really knowing your edges. So you might be a good candidate for somebody who's really looking at slowing down hour by hour, getting more discernment on, what's physical hunger and fullness, what's emotional hunger and fullness, looking at, cravings aren't a bad thing. But if you're noticing that you're feeling like it's making you have heartburn or all those kind of things, we need to look at like, I really need to get to the root of when I eat this and I'm chewing and I'm feeling and all these sensations are happening, what is happening in that experience that I'm looking for? Because it's not a bad thing. Again, it's a survival strategy. It's just that I know people get pretty panicked, like, but I'm afraid full permission to eat is going to make me sicker. And my thought about that is, it's like, we don't want to hurt ourselves, of course, but we also know that like the eating to build in freedom, we can still do that. It's not an all or nothing situation, but it's more like I need to really pay attention to how do I get my need met, or how can I eat these certain kind of foods in a way that aren't hurting me, if that makes sense. So I'm just saying all that to acknowledge a lot of people's questions, and even acknowledge like the panic and sometimes even the fear and the suffering and that is there with that. And that all can be worked on, but there's a level of like, we really got to slow down, and sometimes that slowdown brings up a lot to the surface, and that's where we might need some support to hold the space for that. So it doesn't have to be with me. You might need to get a trusted friend on board or work through like all these feelings and sensations that come up with trying to juggle the whole like supportive eating slash permission to eat, phase that sometimes we have to combine at the same time, and without it turning back into obsession or a diet. So that's something that I can help people with. So, all right. So I think if we don't have any more questions, and I hope that those of you who email me, ask me to answer some questions about this, I've got a little more clarity. If you don't, please private message me, because again, in talking about health topics, and when you're doing this very generally and broadly, I want to make sure I'm doing the most no harm to everybody that I possibly can without being triggering, but also recognizing, and I appreciate everybody's thumbs up and hearts. I appreciate that. It's important to know that there is a solution. There is. But what your solution is not what maybe necessarily somebody else should do. So I've got clients, for example, similar things with, let's say, the gut health things, the A1C, and we're doing some supplements. We're working on some stress management and even some adaptogenic supplements that have been really helpful for them. But what is helpful for one person may be detrimental to somebody else. So that's why I'm not so broadly saying this is what everybody should be doing, because that's not always true. There's also general things that people can do for their health. So for example, I'll just put it out there that generally, a very unsexy, diet with fiber is helpful for most people in most situations, except for, if you're having a lot of gut health stuff, that's not always the best thing to be doing. I'll be perfectly honest. People kind of add fiber in either via fruit and vegetables or powders or things like that. And for some people, they are having, their gut just is feeling devastated by certain kinds of fibers. So we can't do that. And so that's why it's important to be really individual with your stuff. Another example, I might have some people that, the medications they're on or the labs would indicate they need some B vitamins. But some people can't tolerate certain forms of B vitamins. So I can't just say, I want you to take this B vitamin in this form, because I don't actually know your individual sensitivities. Even though in general, a B vitamin is probably pretty helpful for most people. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that for today for you to get the gist of what I'm saying. All right, so if you all don't have any other questions, concerns, thoughts about this is a topic I can probably talk about any kind of struggle you might be having and go all the way from broad to really specific. But until next time that we do that, and if you're interested in that, please let me know. I think there might be room for a really specific maybe webinar series on this, because I know people have a lot of questions. They don't want to go to Dr. Google for all their answers, but I also want to be gentle in this approach to things as well, because we all come from histories of being really easily influenced about like what the right thing is to do, and being good clients and patients and being perfectionists on those kind of things. So I think it's really important that we take a step back and like really listen to our guts and our inner wisdom about this. And if you do have something you just can't quite figure out, then you need to seek some professional help. So I hope this is helpful. I'll talk to you all really soon, and I hope you all have something really good planned for your day to really like, okay, if we're, especially with health, if we're getting, I know I've done this, if we've gotten kind of overly stressed about it or really trying hard to fix it, I think it's time for a break. Take a break from your stuff. I've even had people like take a little break from supplements, let's say, just because they were getting so like, I don't know what's helping me. And again, I'd be perfect with it, but I don't know what to do. Unless it's a very essential thing, take a break for a second. Take a break, because sometimes we take this all really too seriously, and we're trying really hard with our own will to make things happen and to fix everything. And sometimes we actually just need to like go to the zoo and take a break, or invite some friends over for dinner, or watch a movie, and just let our systems rest. Let our systems rest a second about trying to fix everything and heal everything yesterday. And then, take a fresh look at it back again. So sometimes that's the advice I actually give people as well. Let's take a break from trying to fix everything. All right. So I hope this was helpful. I'll talk to you all real soon, and take care.